An API is an application programming interface, and it's an important topic in software development. Here's a basic diagram of how most applications work. We have client, server, and database. An API runs on a server, and the server is always online and is listening for requests from a client. Clients can be laptops, desktops, phones, anything. And the client will send a request to the server. An API has multiple endpoints, which are different URLs that the client can go to. So the client sends in that request, and there can be various different requests, such as GET, which gets information. And this information is usually stored on a database, as data is persistent. That means if you refresh your browser or use a different computer or different location, the data will always be the same inside the database. Then we have POST request, which adds data, PUT edits data, and delete deletes data. So the client sends that call to the server, and then the server will return a response, and optionally a body. Especially for a GET request, it will send back some data, usually in JSON or XML format. And it can either send, for example, code 200 means success. The API call was successful, returns the data, or 400, which is bad request, and it doesn't return the data. As an example, I found this free API online, which is a joke generator. And if you go to one of the endpoints and just run it in your web browser, go to this link, it will return a joke. It will return a type, setup, punchline, and ID. And so this is in JSON format, which is a very common format. It stands for JavaScript Object Notation, and you'll see this format a lot. So you have a key, type, and then value, general, separated by commas inside curly braces. I've also downloaded Postman, which is a super useful API testing tool, a debugging tool. So what I can do is I can put a URL here, set the request type to whatever, in this case just GET, and then send this request to the server. And I can look at the body it returns, and I get the same, well, different joke because it's random, but same format, except it's much easier to read, and it tells you status 200 OK, how long it took to send the request, etc. And I can also look at the documentation of the API and go to different endpoints, but you have to make sure you type it in correctly. For example, if I miss a letter, I will get status 404 not found, cannot get random underscore JOK because that's not an available endpoint on the API. But if I was, for example, to go here, so jokes slash programming slash 10, it will give me 10 programming jokes inside a square bracket. It's a list of different jokes, 200 OK. And this API is free, but some require API keys, which cost money because servers are expensive to keep running all the time, and they don't want people just constantly abusing the network or their server API, right? So you'll sometimes need to add a key, API key, to the header of the request in order to use it. Otherwise, you'll get a 401 unauthorized. And then it doesn't look like this API has post requests, but if you wanted to, you can go post to add a, for example, programming joke, and then in the body, I'd put, for example, it's the same format, JSON, and then you'd create like ID 999, for example, and put your own setup and punchline, and then send, and then this would insert this joke into the database, and then you could also get that joke as well. APIs are everywhere you go. If you click on any button in a website, for example, add something to your shopping cart, as soon as you click the button, it's behind the scenes, it's running an API. So everything is built on APIs, and they're super useful.